Greetings from Mount Adumim, just east of the famous East Jerusalem, in what some like to call the West Bank, which we call Judea, which makes me an official West Bank settler, and I am happy to be here. I try with these podcasts, with the articles that I write, to try and explain something that people just aren't going to get by themselves from watching the news, even from good sources. Things you just can't figure out on your own unless you know. So now I'm hoping you'll know. So I want to talk about our war in Gaza and what is the Jewish biblical, I would say, underpinnings of it. What is it? How does Judaism look at this war, or should look at this war, even if right now we're not really doing it? The first thing I want to address is Amalek. Amalek is a tribe that is descended from Jacob's brother Esau, or Esau in the Bible. And he's mentioned in the Bible. He's mentioned that when, specifically, now we just celebrated Passover, he's mentioned as attacking the Jewish people right after we came out of Egypt. Right after the miracles of the plagues, right after the miracles of the drowning of the Egyptians. And the thing about Amalek is, and there have been people in the government who've mentioned Amalek in the context of this war, and have been accused of genocide when they do genocidal thoughts, genocidal statements. The thing with what is Amalek? When you say Amalek, what do they mean? So even though it's a specific tribe, and we are commanded actually to wipe them out in the Torah, which is interesting because you're saying, oh, well, if you're quoting your Torah to us, I should say, then that is genocidal. Your Torah is genocidal. And, but, chas v'shalom, forget, if you say, Islam somehow preaches something violent. No, that can't be. Because they don't interpret it that way. Well, Judaism doesn't really interpret it that way itself. Amalek is the nation, is the people, any people really. Our rabbis have said any people that will more soon destroy itself in order to harm Jews. That's Amalek. It doesn't care about itself. Most armies, hey, you obviously have an advantage over me. You're gonna kill me. You're going to wipe out my infrastructure. I'm going to stop. In fact, I may not even get going unless I have some actual grievance against you for something. But Amalek is not that. Amalek is, we want to kill you because we want to kill you. And we will gladly sacrifice any number of people in order to do that. And anyone who watches this war in Gaza must understand that the vast majority of people that call themselves Palestinians, specifically, those who call themselves the resistance, that is what we really should be saying we're at war with. We're not at war with Hamas because there's Islamic Jihad, and we're not saying, replace Hamas with Islamic Jihad. And those who are smart, unlike Biden, are not even saying, replace it with the Palestinian Authority, because the Palestinian Authority is also a terrorist organization. 80-something% of Palestinians in polls, by their own polls, not Jews coming along and someone saying, this is what they think. In their own polls, say they agree with October 7th. They're not being forced to do it because these are polls that are not only in Gaza, where maybe you say, they're forced there to say, no, in the West Bank. In the West Bank, run by the PLO, where you can get arrested for being Hamas if the PLO is so inclined and thinks it has the power to do it. No, there, the amongst the PLO people, the shift of support is towards Hamas, not away from Hamas, because Hamas has succeeded in doing what Amalek does. Amalek wants to destroy Jews, and it doesn't matter what damage it causes. Well, who has succeeded in that? Well, Hamas has succeeded better than anyone in the last, at last 70 years, I assume. I also find it fascinating, the idea of genocide. I probably should speak about this more when I'm going to talk about ethics. But it seems interesting to me that you could have, let's say we have one last of somebody. Think of that book, Last of the Mohicans. But the last of this group X, and that guy, that last of that group, is a serial killer. Now you can't punish him because that would be committing genocide. That would be wiping out a people. People forget that when the term genocide started to refer to the Holocaust, it was because the people who it was against were innocent. Had the Jews in Germany been trying to overthrow Germany, and Germany then rounded them up and killed them and used them for slave labor, I don't think there would have been any backlash against that. But the truth is that they weren't. They were loyal citizens to Germany, and believed in their German democracy, and that's who they were, and that's who they targeted. The thing with Amalek is the difference between Amalek and other nations is, if you look through the Torah, you look through the Tanakh, you will see that most other nations they just have to basically behave themselves. We have the concept of a ger toshav, someone who is allowed to live in the land and is only required to do a certain minimal amount of commandments, as far as they're not allowed to steal, they're not allowed to kill, they're not allowed to do basic decent things, and they have to believe in the basic framework of one God. But they don't have, and the only punishment is like, if you do that, if you don't do that, you can't live here. That's other people. We don't have people who we don't have any. Also, forget about them. People who we have no grudge against. There's no. They're not. We don't require them to do anything. We don't go outside of. Unlike the Nazis, and unlike the Muslims, we don't go outside trying to conquer the world, as far as physically conquer it. It's not a Jewish thing. Even when there was a King David and King Solomon, they weren't looking to conquer the world. They were interested in the wealth of doing good business and things like that, but they weren't interested in conquering the world. There is no mandate in the Jewish scriptures to go out and conquer the world. There isn't even like in the Christian scriptures where it says go out and make disciples of all men. We don't even really have that commandment. We do look at ourselves as supposed to be reaching the rest of the world, but we don't have any specific commandment to do anything besides. We don't have a specific commandment to do anything, and what we kind of are encouraged to do is simply to portray a role model, and if you ask us, or even to volunteer the information, to compete in the world of ideas, not to go out and do anything to anyone. In fact, what are we talking about here in Israel is never, when even the most right wing, we talk about the land of Israel. No one is interested in conquering Chicago. No one is interested in conquering Norway. The land that God gave us is here, and it's not Iraq. It's not Mecca and Medina in the Arabian Peninsula. They're welcome to it. On the concept of genocide, and the alleged ethics that we have, the idea that we are the most moral army in the world, it's not true. It's not true because the morality is skewed, because they do not have a Jewish source of morality. There is no such thing as a Judeo-Christian morality. We like to say that because, as I'll get to later, we are afraid of the rest of the world for good reason. We've had thousands of years of experience keeping our head down so that we are not interested in pissing anybody off. But there is no such thing as Judeo-Christian ethics. It is not as if when somebody has a moral quandary, they check with the minister and the rabbi and say, oh, now we've discovered what Judeo-Christian ethics is. No, Christians talk about it and they assume that it must go back, since they derive it somehow from the Bible, which they lump the New Testament, Old Testament, so to speak, together. They assumed, okay, well, it must go back to Judaism because we go back to Judaism. And one of the big differences is we have no concept of turning the other cheek. It doesn't exist in the Jewish Bible, and there are a lot of things that point directly against it. We just finished Passover. In the Passover Seder, as we do it today, there's a line that gets attention from within those who are practicing Jews, like, oh wow, this is kind of an interesting thing to say, and it's a non sequitur. You break from praising God for you finish thanking God for the meal that you just ate. You are then going to start praising God for all the things that happened coming out of Egypt. And in the middle, we open the door so that anybody can hear us, and we say, Shavo chamatcha el goyim, pour out your rage upon the nations that do not know you, and on regimes that have not called upon your name. And people rightly try to limit it, like, well, who exactly do we mean? But I think it's not. We're not so concerned about like the theology. Oh, don't pour out your wrath against I don't know, like some tribe in Africa because they don't call by your name. They say the next line is Ki achal et Yaakov. They ate Jacob. Ve'et navehu heishamu. And they have laid his places waste. Neve is actually reference to the temple. That's why we want you to pour out your wrath, because they've been eating, so to speak, Yaakov. And this is kind of a bad translation. It shouldn't be like really passive. Jacob is not devoured. They devoured Jacob. And it's singular because them as a group. So this is not be nice and kumbaya. I had someone tell me it's someone in a group that I'm in is Christian and said that peace and freedom always comes with peace. And I was like, well, yeah, I mean, we got peacefully killed all their firstborn, peacefully drowned the Egyptian army, but other than that, everything was nice and peaceful. This is something we say every day. This is a psalm, directly from the Bible. This is all biblical. Yes, Judaism has a lot of things that introduced that are not directly biblical, but like all of this goes all the way back. All the things I'm going to tell you go all the way back. If you believe in the Bible, then this is what it says. Yalzu chasidim b'chavod, Yoranu al shchotam. Let the faithful, or the pious, really exalt in glory, and let them rejoice on their couches or their beds. Romamot, praises of how lofty God is. Peons it says, but I looked it up. That just means a poem. But Romamot means like something high. Ramata Golan, if you're familiar with Israel and all, the Golan Heights. El Bigonam, the praises of God in their throat. Vecherv Pifiot B'yadam, and a two-edged sword in their hands. La'asot nechema goyim, to do vengeance upon the nations. Tochechot balimum, punishment or chastisement or something like that, but on another word for nations. Lesor machem bazikim v'nichbedeim chavle rozal, binding their kings with shackles and their nobles with chains of iron. Lasor bahem mishpat katuv hadarhu l'chol chasidav hayah. To do with them. This is not a good translation. I'm sorry about that. To do with them, mishpat. Mishpat is justice. What it is talking about is the revenge is the justice. So we don't have such a concept as having a problem with revenge per se. And that is the judgment. Lasot bahem mishpat, justice. Katuv hadar hu lechol hasidav. He is glory to all his faithful, or like I said, pious, and then praise the Lord. And lastly, I want to talk about. So I had someone over Pesach, over the Passover first day holiday, at the no, it wasn't at the center, it was at lunch. They said to me, like, he met with a this is a Jewish guy. He met with a religious guy, but we were all very affected, I gotta say, by the milieu in which we've grown up, and we don't realize when we've taken on things that are actually very non-Jewish ideas. He asked a soldier who's been fighting in Gaza that if you met a Palestinian woman and she said, my 4 children have been killed, I have no home left, what would you say to her? The soldier said that compassion is dead. Okay, that's an answer. This particular Jew was worried about what will happen if we lose our compassion. And the truth is the Torah is telling us we won't. The rabbis say that there are 3 traits to a Jew, and one of them is compassion. And if you don't have it, then it's proof that you're not really Jewish somehow. It's not proof, I should say. It is a proof and evidence. But we're not talking about just having compassion in general. And compassion in general, yeah, you should have. If I have nothing against you, of course I want you to be happy and healthy and have all good things. Why would I not? But we don't. We have concepts. It says many times in the Torah, don't have compassion on this people that you are going to war with. And who gets in trouble most for that? Shaul, when he goes to fight Amalek, he has compassion. And what happens? Amalek sticks around. And according to rabbinic tradition and the fact that Shaul went to war against the king Agag and spares Agag of all people, the king of the Amalekim. And then we have the story of Purim later on. Then and the name is Haman Ha'agagi, the Agagite. The one descended from Agag. We link those two together and say, because he didn't destroy him right away, that's why there was still a Haman left. And what does Haman do? Haman tries to destroy the entire Jewish world, and he's willing to give all the treasure he has in order to destroy the Jews. He is not worried about hurting himself. So he asked me what I would say. And I said, well, who is this woman? Because they say, oh, my kids were, a lot of times they say, my kids are martyrs. It's wonderful. Sinwar laughed and rejoiced when he heard that his sons were. Sinwar is the head of Hamas, if you've been living in a cave. And he rejoiced when he heard that his sons had been killed by the Israeli army. And I said, well, what about Sisera's mother? This is in the Bible, the book of Judges, chapter 5, verse 28. Through the window peered Sisera's mother. Sisera is a general who was fighting against the Jews, who were led by a combination of the prophetess Devorah and the general Barak. And this is when Barak was a good name before Ehud. Through the window appeared Sisera's mother. Behind the chalice she cried out, why is the chariot so long coming? Why is the clatter of his chariots delayed? She's worried about her son. Her son might be dead. Her son is dead. Her son might be dead and she doesn't know. And she's worried about it and she's crying and people are trying to comfort her. This poor Palestinian woman, what did they say? The wisest of her ladies answers her, indeed, and by the way, this is a Christian translation, just so nobody could accuse me of, picking, like sort of warping the text. The wisest of her ladies answer her. Indeed, she keeps saying to herself, are they not finding and dividing the spoils, a woman or two for each man, colorful garments as plunder for Sisera, colorful garments, highly embroidered garments for my neck, all this as plunder. She's sad about her son, but like she's got other fish to fry, and the fish to fry are Jews. And so should we have compassion upon her? Should we give her food, aid? Like, is that a good thing? There is no commandment to give your enemies food. There is no commandment to give them now cigarettes. There is no commandment to stock up the enemy and allow them to raise money to rearm themselves. Besides whatever might be snuck in directly, the providing aid to the enemy allows them to not have to pool their money just to survive. Providing aid to the enemy has allowed them to live in the tunnels because now they have electricity and they can clean the air out and keep it the right temperature for people to live. If they didn't have electricity and gas and water, they'd have to surrender, and who would want that? This is on the Calvinist website. On the in the Maxwell magazine, the headline that appeared was "Israel Alone," showing this flag sitting in the field. You notice the flag hasn't fallen. We're alone, and we always have been alone. We always will be alone. For the past 2,000 years, we've lived in non-Jewish societies. Unfortunately, the Muslims have not had to go through this experience because perhaps it would make them a lot more easier to deal with. We know that that in the countries that we have lived, and in fact today in the U.S., they could go on a program at any moment and wipe us out. And therefore we do everything in our power to make sure that doesn't happen. We have a Yetzer Hara. Yetzer Hara is a very Jewish concept. I don't know of another translation for it. The Yetzer Hara is the desire to do something that is bad for you. And you aren't punished for your Yetzer Hara. Your Yetzer Hara, that's born in you. That's what is the thing that you like, right? Whether whether it's drugs, whether it's illicit relations, whether it's theft, whatever. That's just who you are. And your job is to overcome that. That is your job in life. And we have a horrible Yetzer Hara that we have developed over these millennia, where we want to be loved, and what hurts us most is that we're not loved. That they could bring us to a tribunal in The Hague. That the people that we thought were our friends, the Biden administration, could be turning on us left, right, and center. That the institutions that we loved, the Ivy League colleges. I mean, my goodness, college. It may as well be a Jewish institution. We love it that much, and to have them turn, and the ones that we went to, turn against us, that hurts more than anything. Why are they accusing us of genocide? Because they know that that's the one thing that hurts us most. They know where to poke. But the truth is, we've always been alone. We just finished the holidays of Purim and Passover. We were alone. In the holiday of Purim, the king listens to Haman and says, "Yeah, go ahead and wipe them out." And when he finds out that his wife, that he really loves, or at least desires a lot, is Jewish, and that her uncle had saved him from a plot. This is all in the book of Esther, very biblical. Like I said, everything I'm telling you now, straight from Bible, and Judaism has picked it up and run with it. He that her uncle has saved the king's life. So in gratitude for saving his life and everything, he allows the Jews to defend themselves. Right? That's his great concession to the Jewish people is, okay, like I'm not going to get the army to help those who are trying to exterminate you. They're going to stand by and do nothing. Go ahead. Miraculously we won, but it wasn't because we had help. We had no help. Passover, another great one. Nobody else. What's the only nation that came out to meet us is Amalek. The other nations that I take that back for a second. And this is proof of our willingness to live with others is the Givonim, the Gibeonites, come and say, hey, they lie to us, and they say they're really from near Jerusalem here, and they say we come from a far off land and we want to just make a treaty with you, we don't do anything to you don't do anything to us. And they said, hey, sure, we would love to have a friend. And it turns out that treaty is a lie, but the Jews respect it and say, okay, you know what, we aren't going to hurt you. And you can continue to live in the land of Israel. But otherwise, the Ammonites and the Moabites, who are the descendants of Lot, can never convert to Judaism, can never become part of the people, because they don't have enough compassion that Abraham was so good to them. They have no quarrel in this. They don't have land in the land of Israel that Israel is going to take over. They could have come out and offered us food. And even if they hadn't, if they had just agreed to sell us food, hear this, Americans, if they had just agreed to sell us food, you know what? Okay, fine. But no, they wouldn't help us. We're always alone. We'll always be alone. That was right after Passover. In 1948, 56, 67, America had an arms embargo. As we were facing 5 Arab nations, America thought it wise to make sure we couldn't get weapons. We were able to smuggle in weapons from Czechoslovakia because the Soviet Union, for their own reasons, obviously, and turned against us very quickly afterwards. Let us have guns and ammunition, but otherwise there was no help until 1973, when it looked like Israel might be destroyed, and finally Kissinger and in particular and Nixon let us get arms, mostly because everything is always because everybody has some other interest. It's not directly us. No nation has friends. All nations have interests. Jerusalem was not recognized by the United States until Trump. The Knesset, according to America, until Donald Trump, through Barack Obama, through Reagan, through Carter, through you name it, was not in Israel. They said, no, the whole of Jerusalem, not just East Jerusalem from 67, the whole of Jerusalem, America refused to recognize as part of Israel. So much so that the Obama administration went back, and when they had accidentally put things like, Hillary Clinton, the Secretary of State, met with Netanyahu in Jerusalem, Jerusalem, Israel, they went out and wiped out, white out, for those who are old enough to remember it, the Israel part. They went back and edited all the videos they had to make sure that it doesn't say Israel. You could not, if you were born in Jerusalem, and you were an American citizen, and they put where are you born, so I have Cleveland, Ohio. They would put Jerusalem. They wouldn't put a country, because Jerusalem didn't belong to a country. Where the Knesset is, where Shaarei Tzedek Hospital is, where the High Court is, where every institution, where they would come meet with Israeli leaders, that didn't belong to Israel. And so I want to leave with, like I said, the we are terrified. We are our Jews as a whole are terrified, mostly of not being loved, and also because we always fear that maybe we're wrong. um, I think what's driving our religious leadership uh, is can also be this. It's like everyone is afraid that maybe we're just not right. It's interesting. This is only you know most countries in the world, legally at least. I'm not talking about what they might do to you on the street, but I know in the United States, because I grew up there, I could go to anywhere and just start praying. Our prayers are pretty much silent anyways, and it wouldn't be a problem. Any public space I could go to, and nobody would say, "Oh no, I'm arresting you because you did that." Only in Israel, if you go on the Temple Mount and you pray, you are likely to get arrested. They arrested 13 people because they tried to bring the Passover sacrifice to the Temple Mount. If you tried to bring Passover sacrifice, let's say in your backyard, I think most jurisdictions would totally allow you to. If you whatever your religion was. I know there are many Christians who practice some sort of amalgamation of Jewish concepts from the Bible, who have a barbecue, barbecue a sheep, slaughter and everything. No problem. No, in Israel we have a Jewish government to make sure that Jewish people don't do Jewish things. And why? Because they're afraid. They're afraid of the Arabs. I think they're more afraid, and especially the Jewish leadership, is that if we did start doing everything that the Torah tells us about, and we built the temple and everything, and there would just be nothing there, and people go, where is God? I think they're afraid of that. That's that is another Jewish Yetzer Hara. It's like maybe either we're wrong, or maybe the God just we've misread God somehow. And no matter how many miracles He does for us, it doesn't matter. How did we create a golden calf right after we were afraid Moses isn't coming back? Like right after the Exodus from Egypt, all the plagues and everything, hearing God's voice, we said, yeah, but maybe He lost interest. Maybe he's not. He doesn't want us anymore. The Tanakh spends a lot of time trying to tell us that that's not true. But it's hard. It's hard after 2,000 years to go to change your stripes, and it's hard because even in this country we fear for Jews outside of the country. What's going to happen if we do something, and because of that, thousands die in New York, or Chicago, or LA, San Francisco? Oh my gosh, all these places, Philadelphia. What's going to happen if it winds up that something we did, that caused them to kill them? Like, even if it's good for us, even if it helps us, even if it saves our lives, but if we could have, if there's any way to put it off, we'll try and do that. And that's, I think, the risk that we want. I don't know that we're trying to win this war. I don't know whether we will start trying to win this war. Mostly we're trying to put a cover back on the pot, and I don't know that it can be done. Okay, that's it for now. As we are in the middle of the intermediate days of Passover, known as Chol HaMoed, which everyone, Modim Shalom, have a happy Passover, and hopefully I'll be able to put out more of these videos.